the dog out so you can come with me. There's a major scoop coming out. Let's put it this way. Sparrow got word to Cameron that there's a sale of Lucasfilm being talked about in the offices and of Lucasfilm, and it parallels the story with Doomcock. So I gotta let the dog out. So I don't really know. I mean, really, because of the way it's been talked about, we don't have any details beyond the buyer wants to make sure the parks are, hey, Justin, how you doing? The buyer wants to make sure that the foreign overseas parks, probably the ones in Asia, are not connected to Star Wars. And what it looks like to me, it's someone who's very happy to license the product out to Disney for the parks. I mean, you have to admit, how much money did Disney, invest? Not only just buying Lucasfilm, but investing in the parks. Building Galaxy's Edge. It's $10 billion. All right, and under Kathleen Kennedy's management, what they earned was about $2 billion. Okay, so they didn't really earn a lot of money. It's a really nice day out, by the way. And I gotta say, it could be a company, it could be Sony, it could be Universal, but the way it looks from what was being hinted at by Sparrow is that it is an individual. Hey, Cameron, how you doing? And come on, Coach. That individual, the only one you can think of, is George Lucas. Now, I threw, Elon Musk out there as a joke, but people have, bugged Elon on Twitter about buying Lucasfilm, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him jump into that. I mean, he is a fan, and he has expressed disgust at the way it's been run. Or it could be, who was that guy that you mentioned, Cameron? I can't really remember, but the only one that really makes sense at this point is George. So my opinion is that if this guy, it is or it's not. It is Haim Saban. So, but he hasn't really even expressed interest in buying it. But it makes sense that George would buy Lucasfilm back because it's been such an atrocious abomination. To his legacy, okay? And, if I were him, I'd want it back so I could fix what was broken. It just makes sense. So, let's backtrack. Everything that's been in development is now frozen, including Ahsoka Season 2, Mandalorian Season 4, and of course, the vaunted Rey, the Bestest Evar movie. Hey, I am Luke's father. How you doing? I'm going to talk about a video that I uploaded earlier today. Mark Hamill, and I think Cameron would agree with me when he said he wasn't interested or would likely play Luke Skywalker again is necessarily connected to Rey and Kennedy waving the Rey movie out there. It just makes sense. He's not going to say, he said never say never. He left a caveat there, all right? And if John and Dave need him back, he'll come back. Just like if John got Harrison on the phone, Harrison would come back. Okay, they know each other, they're friends, there you go. And John is a professional. He just comes off as a cool dude. And yes, I have been listening to Burn It Down. I think if I ever meet Maureen Ryan, I'm going to have to be dragged away from wanting to pummel her because she's a toxic SJW woke weirdo. But watching a woke weirdo indirectly and in subtext excoriate Kathleen Kennedy is awesome. And that's exactly what she's doing. Um, and the thing about it, it's not just the overt sexism in the office. The story about this girl we'll name Emma having to babysit this writer that was getting all kinds of accolades and he was protected, but he's the biggest idiot on the planet. And I'll say right out, Emma is some girl who worked with John Kasdan because John Kasdan is the only writer who could fit that description. Protected, a moron, you know what I'm saying? And I can somebody look it up to see who the showrunner was for Willow? Because it's not any of the Star Wars stuff. It's just not. Well, just some other guy. That's the point. Is it isn't that he never said he would never play him again. Okay, he said never say never. Okay, but he made it very clearly in the subtext when he said I'm not going to do it anymore, that he was talking about Kennedy and Rey. Remember how badly he was treated while playing Luke Skywalker by Kennedy era filmmakers. Okay, and she didn't give a damn. Okay, she didn't care. So there you go. Okay, so if she went to the showrunner, then it wasn't him, unless the writer of the show was an idiot and Kasdan wasn't. You know what I'm saying? But it has to be Willow. I don't see Jon Favreau putting up with that crap. I really don't. And he's the only other showrunner out there. I mean, I can't. I mean, Deborah Chow wouldn't put up with that shit. I mean, I don't see her. You know, she's a serious person. So, you know, I don't know. But the ballooning budgets and not caring about it just screams Kathleen Kennedy. Hell, maybe it was someone that worked on Andor. Because Tony Gilroy is an idiot too. Okay, so several male writers. Okay, all right. And I can, you know, well, I mean, this is a mystery. I don't want to solve it until this whole, you know, this kind of weird thing going on is settled and we know it's gonna happen. We know it's happening. You know, we've been talking about the sale of Lucasfilm, and I've kind of wavered back and forth that yes, they will, no, they won't. And as far as, you know, a couple of days ago, I said, I don't see Disney selling Lucasfilm, but when you start to see, I mean, the problems financially they have, and the Hulu being overvalued to hide the issues, which is probably FTX. I have to say that a sale, even of Lucasfilm, which it's not worth what they bought it for. It's not. You know, what did, in that article that came out this weekend in Fortune, a franchise isn't about box office. A franchise is merchandise, it's park passes, it's experiences that you sell, it's all that stuff. And if you're not able to sell Ray figures and they go from the factory to the warehouse to Walmart to an Ollie's buyout, you're not doing well, okay? And hey Dave, how you doing? And there's a lot of truth to that. And I think everybody that was talking about what Lucasfilm is worth had that in mind, but couldn't wrap their minds around it until that article came out. And when you've got idiots like, Star Wars Mag, Jason Ward, Pablo, etc., just completely disconnected from reality, saying that they're fine and Lucasfilm is fine and they're doing well, they're full of shit. They either know they're not doing well and they're in denial, or they really think they're doing well. Okay. Either way, they're full of shit. All right. And if they can't, I mean, look, first off, I haven't said this in live chat. Daisy Ridley, when she showed up at Celebration, was not there to begin with to talk about a Ray movie. Okay. She was there to be part of the Kathy Kennedy goodbye ceremony. Kennedy flipped the thing on everybody and probably convinced Daisy, let's talk about the movie. I mean, if you see the pictures of her with Charmine Chinoy, it's like she doesn't look, the fake smile, she don't look comfortable. Chinoy looks like she has no idea what the hell she's doing there. The Acolyte crew showing up, not really talking about it, about what it's about. And when they do talk about what it's about, it's like they don't even know what it's about. The fact that we never got to see that sizzle reel, it's Kennedy, I think, knew, I think she has known for a long time that Iger has been talking to somebody about buying Lucasfilm. She knows it's the end, okay? And Iger doesn't necessarily have to honor his agreement if he sells it. No one does. Yes, she was cringing. I mean, look, she knows there's not going to be another Ray movie. I don't think she wants one. I think as unlikable as Ray is, she had a bad experience. Adam Driver did. I mean, that article from Fortune called Kylo Ren a bland, unremarkable villain. And that's them being nice. I've been way meaner. Okay. And that just goes for Ray. I mean, there's nothing to these characters. And the fans despise them. There aren't any Raylos anymore. I mean, you'll go on to like Twitter and see generalized sequel trilogy fans like Dan Decentralized or some psychotic girl who thinks saying she's not binary, it doesn't make her binary. It's like by saying you're not binary, by logic makes you binary. Do you not? Okay. That kind of stuff. But you don't see Ray and Kyle Ron pictures anymore together. You don't see anybody stalking Adam Driver anymore. This Valentine's Day, it was all Han and Leia. That's it from Lucasfilm. That's it. Okay. And I think there was some Padme and Anakin, but no Ray and Kyle Ron, no Raylo. So Kennedy's and her delusions, there will be an audience for this. It will suddenly appear, maybe out of the future, they'll just appear and carry the franchise forward. And it's like, no. First off, Generation Z didn't like it. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. They're getting really sick of the woke stuff too. If you look at surveys and, even surveys of the U.S. military, they're getting, the kids that do go in, and they're having a tough time recruiting right now, don't want to hear about it. They're there to be Marines and soldiers, airmen, Coast Guards and sailors, and they're not interested in the bullshit. You know, they're this is this is having a 40-year-old, you know, Generation X or millennial, 35-year-old millennial who runs a marketing thing, who went to Wharton and went to, you know, Smith and or some all-girl university, disconnected from reality, telling the company, we should expand the base of customers to include this, and this, who are already customers. And we should do marketing excluding everybody else. We should put product out there only for these people, okay? Which doesn't necessarily start a boycott. People just don't buy the shit anymore. Which, look, there isn't a boycott of Bud Light. It is we're not buying it anymore. And people going on the record, excuse me, people going on the record saying I don't want it anymore, Dylan Mulvaney, blah, blah, blah. You know, as a woman, I am insulted when I see a guy in makeup thinking is a woman. It's like, no, you're not. You are fetishizing me. You're fetishizing my sex. Okay? You don't have any intention of I mean, they don't even know what a woman is. They don't. And it's insulting and it's misogynist. It really is. And but it's not a boycott. Target's not being boycotted. People are just going to stores that sell the products that Target does, probably cheaper. And there you go. But anyway, let's talk about the buyer. So the scoop and everything that is in Cameron's blog, the Patreon, it points out to an individual, okay? And the only one that makes sense, and I threw Elon Musk out as a joke, okay? But the only one that makes sense is George Lucas. I mean, he would, hey, Pocket Nunu, he's the only one I think that can fix what's broken, okay? And look, Kennedy knows if George comes back, she's done. He will fire her. He'll say, Kathy, I'm done. You know, because she lied to him. She flat out couldn't even look him in the face when she was saying how she would protect Luke and Han and Leia and Anakin. She didn't have any intention to do that. No, Elon wouldn't either, but it's trust me, if it was Elon, somehow it would come out. Okay. I mean, Elon could reach into his pocket lint and have enough money to buy Lucasfilm. Oh, cross, yuck. Well, I had my wrist rehab today, so y'all want to see it? There it is. See, right there. This is where the plate is. And I got my ring back. The swelling's down so I can put my ring back on. But this is the biggest news I think we've had. This might actually earn a even more, an even pricier bottle of champagne if it's him, and I will go out and get it. And the reason why it's because, look, today is D-Day. Today is the day that my Uncle Joe landed on Omaha Beach. My Uncle George landed at Omaha Beach. My dad was, I think, in the sky above the beaches. He was at the Army, 8th Army Air Force. And politics is war. War is politics war is politics by other means. Karl von Clausewitz, the Prussian general who wrote the essays called On War, and it's a book. I read them in German. long time ago. I'm not going to say I got everything out of it. I did have the English translation with me to figure out a lot of the complicated stuff. But I used to look at it and say, politics is war by other means. And if George gets it back, that will be, oh, you're right, Cross, on that one. That will be a victory. That will be the Allies marching into Paris while the Germans flee. Okay, that will be taking MacArthur landing in the Philippines. All right, look, this is not a shooting war. This is not it's a war of name calling. And there has been physical violence on the part of the left with Antifa and BLM and that kind of thing. But it's a war they started. They started it. I mean, I'll tell you a story. Back in the 90s, my sister Chris got a packet of literature. She was a fourth grade teacher from my oldest sister, and you guys know the story there, on homosexuality. And it was written for kids that age. And I'm like, what the hell? Why are you, they're fourth graders. Why are you doing this? And she got really pissed off at me. Well, my brother Jim asked the same thing. Yeah, I'll talk about that too, Para. And it disappeared. I got blamed for it. I did not. Right hand on the Bible, I did not do it. Okay, I did not do it. But it disappeared. But if you want to know where woke started, it's back in the 90s when they were doing this shit, when they were doing this stuff, you know, and that's where it started. And that's why we have so many younger millennials who are completely insane over social justice and the rest of the stuff. And and that's when, and these people have always been at war with us. You know, Alinsky's rules for radicals. Okay, they've always been at war with us, and we're fighting back, and they're losing. They are stepping back now. BlackRock, Larry Fink is, doubled down, but is the only one out there that is. And I don't know where you're getting that one, Jonathan. I don't think George would be happy with that. And I think that they'd lose the deal if they did that. George doesn't like the sequel trilogy. In fact, I think the only person out there who hates it more than me is probably him. Okay, and I fucking hate it. Okay, dropping F-bombs here. Kaboom, kaboom, kaboom everywhere. If you guys have a chance, Harrison Ford did a 6-question thing on Esquire. It's on YouTube. And it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. He talks about when he was a cameraman for Jim Morrison for like 2 weeks. And it's hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. You've got to watch it. I mean, the guy is funny. I mean, one of the things that he's got, I think, is he's got a better grip on reality than Mark Hamill does. Okay. And he's got a better sense of humor. He doesn't take anything he says seriously at all. So, anyway, watch that. I really want you to. Dave Pensack, if you want to look for that and put a link in the chat, that'd be great. So people have it. But anyway, as far as George coming back and buying Lucasfilm, I think that was always a possibility. I never thought it was real. Oh, hey Maze, how you doing? Guys, this Mazeris is, like Dave Pensack, a friend from the old days with Craig at Reviews for You. When Monday nights we would all get together, and by the time we were done, we would be drunk off our asses. And I would leave early because I'd be tired. I mean, I would get 10 o'clock. I'm like, And I actually go to bed somewhat earlier now, even though if there's something going on like this, I'm up. You know, this is a big deal, and it sounds to me like it's going fast. And I'm going to say this: this idea of selling Lucasfilm has been talked about and has been probably going on for months. Okay. And this is why you see Kennedy being frantic. For what reason? It's like, look, if he sells it, you're done. George isn't going to keep you. Because, um, you know, it, yes, and Maze is right. We were all united by a common purpose in early 2018, trying to understand the whys of the Last Jedi and how we'd been sucker punched, and we declared war on Lucasfilm together. We declared war on Kathleen Kennedy and Pablo Hidalgo and Ryan Roundhead Johnson and J.J. Abrams and, you know, uh, the people out there calling it for racist bigots, phobes and ists and all the rest of this crap. Okay, George gets it back, that shit ends. Because he knows we're the ones with the buying power. And I'm going to tell you, let's go back to that article from Fortune. It's the first time in a publication, a legit publication, that is at my YouTube channel or Cameron's Patreon or Doomcock, where the fans were not called names. Now, in Burn It Down, Maureen Ryan just barely scratches the surface of the Kelly Marie Tran thing. That whole thing came out of Lucasfilm. The Moses Ingram thing came out of Lucasfilm. Okay. None of that stuff that we were accused of, any of us did. Okay. Lucasfilm, 2 months before Kenobi drops, instead of keeping their mouth shut, I don't know what you're saying, Para. I have no idea. Can you actually write it in a way that I can understand that question? They came out and said the fans are racist. And we're like, what? I mean, and no one had been saying anything about it. No one had gone on that I know of and attacked her. I never saw any examples of it. Apparently, she must have erased it. But one of the things that Maureen Ryan writes about is that. And it's like, look, that was Lucasfilm using some bizarre guerrilla marketing scheme to get people interested in watching the show. If they'd have just kept their mouth shut and not made a big deal about her being black, no one would have noticed. Like no one noticed Billy D. Williams, and no one noticed Samuel L. Jackson. They were just actors in a movie. I mean, but hey, let's make it a big deal and let's call it the fans, because then people will watch the show. Didn't work out that way, did it? Because people that were going to watch the show, the fans, got pissed. Okay, and a lot of people didn't watch it and mislead people about what they saw. All right, which is, the truth. Ha ha. My husband sent me a text. And that's the truth. I didn't see anything that said any of us sent Moses Ingram mean things. I don't think her story was worthy of as much time as they spent on it. I'm going to criticize her acting. She wasn't very good, but she didn't take away from my enjoyment from the show. Okay. But that's the kind of thing that got Lucasfilm into the predicament that it's in now. The whole Jason Ward engineered racist crap about, the big lie that somehow, some fandom menacer attacked Kelly Marie Tran racially and she left the internet. And then you see what she said about it, and she said it was the media. And it's like, oh, okay, it's media. All right, which 99% of the reasons why these people don't do Twitter and don't do Instagram is because of TMZ and the rest of that garbage, okay? And, but again, this stuff contributed to where Lucasfilm is, and the fact that somebody's out there going to buy it. Now again, let's go over. It could be Sony, it could be Universal, or if it looks like from what we've been told that it leans more towards an individual, it's George Lucas. Okay, and if he wants it back, you will see a decided shift in messaging. All right. He's not going to put up with this nonsense after what they did to Luke and Han and his baby in general. You know, and will Disney be able to keep the sequel trilogy? I don't think they want to. I mean, I was talking to Cameron. The Direct put up a big heaping pile of shit on their website saying, don't worry, Star Wars fans, the sequel trilogy it will be safe and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's if people are actually watching it. Again, they're looking to add another $400 million in cuts on content on Disney Plus. And I mean, they took National Treasure off, they took Willow off. I wouldn't be surprised to see them decide not to finish Andor. Okay. And take Andor off there because nobody watched it. And I know some people liked it. Why? Why'd you like it? Well, you just want cutesy aliens and droids and everything. No. That's not what makes Star Wars. I don't want to go to another planet and see Birmingham, England's junkyard, or a place I walked in London, standing in for Coruscant. Okay, you have a volume stage, use it. Okay, and you know they didn't use it. They didn't use it. Was it the budget, or was Tony Gilroy trying to play fast and loose and trying to be cutesy and you know his slow burn? Look, if anything burned slower, by the time dinner time came, it would still be walking around out in the pasture. Okay, it was a terrible, and of course it was woke. The more I think about, God, who was it? Zach on Cameron's Patreon talked about the wokeness that was there. It was subtle, but when you start thinking about it, and I knew there was something insulting to me about a lot of what I saw. Okay. Don't be surprised if Andor goes. Don't be surprised if Solo goes. Okay. Now, what will George do with the sequel trilogy? I don't think he'll allow. I don't think he'd make the deal if that was going to be standard canon. I don't think he'd allow for it. I don't think he wants it. You guys remember he didn't show up for the Rise of Skywalker premiere. Okay, and he was there for everything, but he didn't show up for that. Why? He tried to help them one more time, and Kennedy freaked out that there was no Reylo kiss, la-di-da, and they ended up refilming 40% of it. Okay, they were filming up to 2 weeks before the movie premiered. Okay, so, and they got rid of everything that he did, helped JJ with. Say what you want about Abrams, but he at least ventured forth to talk to George about, we can save this. I need your help. You know, and George said, sure. All right, and it didn't work. You know, but if George gets it back, we are probably going to get a vastly different future than what Kennedy's sequel trilogy was. And look, you know, when you think of her, she didn't show up at the office today because she's embarrassed because that book came out. And that book is full of proof that she's an incompetent leader. Okay, she is. I mean, she's just, she's. You kind of look at her and go, "What is your point again?" And so you kind of go, "Okay." So no, I don't think that he keep the sequel trilogy at all. I don't think he wants it. I think he has his own mind and look. If he did it right and got other people involved, a director, other writers, and not Larry Kasdan, but people who love Star Wars, to help him with it like he did with the original trilogy, you get it right back. Because look, George was changing things as he wrote. Look at the iterations of Han Solo was supposed to be a green lizard guy, like a Trandoshan. And he finally was like, nah, that's not going to work. So he finally made him human, which is good because, you know, and there were other changes, like Luke was going to be a girl. Okay, and now it's Luke. A script treatment is just that, and it's there kind of as base. And then you do the outline, and then the outline becomes the first draft, and then the first draft, unless it's TLJ, and you're Carrie Hart, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever read. You need to give it to Kathy. And then you'll lose your job. The first draft doesn't last, second draft doesn't last, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe. Okay, then you're getting to what the movie's gonna look like. I do not know how many different iterations of Indiana Jones 5 there are. I do know there have been several different writers, including John Kasdan, who probably, Harrison Ford probably read that and went, because John Kasdan's a spoiled, rotten, sexual adventurer. Just does. I mean, he's a weirdo. But he grew up in Hollywood, so there you go. But, we'll see what happens. And if it's happening fast, and this is the perfect time to buy it, they got a movie coming out. And, who knows how this is going to look. But do I think it's George? I think if Sparrow's feelings that it's a single person, it's George. I mean, I don't, if Elon bought it, he would bring George in. If Elon bought it, he'd fire everybody. I mean, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni would be the only ones standing there going, holy shit, we're the last ones here. Elon would not put up with their shit. He wouldn't. But we'll have to see. I mean, if they're, Disney legal's talking. It's complicated. And the information is hard to piece together. And you kind of, what we do know is the buyer wants to make sure that Lucasfilm is not attached to any of the foreign parks. Okay, so that's fine. So that sounds to me like they're perfectly happy for Disneyland and Disney World to have Galaxy's Edge. Okay. And, there has to be contingencies for The Mandalorian. So what I think the deal would be is George buys the studio back, and Disney distributes for Disney Plus Mandalorian, Ahsoka. They distribute the movies like Fox did. Okay. And maybe 20th Century Films actually is attached to Lucasfilm rather than Disney proper, which makes sense in my opinion, because then you're getting back to where it all began and where it makes sense. Okay, sometimes stepping back and getting back to where you know you did well, where your groove was, I think, is better than full on completely abandoning everything, which is kind of what Kennedy did. Okay, I mean, the whole black pill blob, you know, Kennedy said Luke is cobwebbed, blah blah blah. That came from Pablo Hidalgo. Okay, Pablo was the one that said it. By the way, he's been very quiet on Twitter. He hasn't said a word, which is probably meaningless. He's probably watching it now. Hey, Pablo, have you found a new job yet? Carrie, back if you're watching. You might want to get that resume polished up, because you get laid off, or if George walks in the office and says, I want to talk to you alone, you're done. Okay. And I got to tell you, Cameron pointed out one part, and I missed it in the book, where a girl was complaining about how demanding George was. I mean, and it's like, he's a director, he's a producer. They're always like that. They're always like that. So. So, look, a director, a producer, a guy in his position is always going to be demanding. In fact, I found a short where George is talking about basically every part of a film of when you're making a movie wants to be number one. Soundtrack wants to be number one. Effects wants to be number one. The cast wants to be number one. And all that matters is the story. Okay. So you might not have a budget. I'm talking to you, Tony Gilroy. But if your story is good, it's going to make the show watchable. But if it's not good, Tony Gilroy and/or, no one is going to watch it. And you need a protagonist who's not a boring, unremarkable cheese ball like Andor. Okay. I yeah, you have to be demanding. It's just, that's the way it is. So, when you've got some crybaby girl, being a victim, it's like, honey, there's a reason why there aren't as many women behind the camera and running production companies. It's because a lot of women cannot deal with the emotional factor. I mean, of getting yelled at or having to yell at somebody. Okay. It's on the Esquire channel. So that's where that is. Jonathan. Anyway, I've been talking for 45 minutes, so tomorrow I'll probably do a more in-depth video about this. It's like we hear these things, and then it goes quiet for a really long time, and then all something bigger happens. This is a much bigger deal, because it sounds like to me like they've been working on this for a while, and it's the first time it's come to the attention of people. But look, these things are talked about. Bob Iger meets George out for lunch. Bob Iger has, George's repre- representatives come over for a cocktail party. You know, I mean, that's what that's about. And that is just the way it is. And no, again, parabellum. George said, and I'm paraphrasing, the fans like the EU, so he kept it. He personally doesn't like the EU, and he doesn't like Mara Jade. I agree with him on that. Mazuris, if he's still here, chime in, buddy. I have a hard time with the way she treated Luke. I don't like her in that way. I don't think she's a good match for him. And really, is that what George wants? Does he want Luke to have a romance? And I think, look, if you're an SJW and you see a single guy and he's in his 50s, you're gonna, oh, he's gay. It's like, where do you get that? Or they see two guys that are really good friends, they're gay. It's like, guys can't have friends anymore. Guess what? Boys, you're not allowed to have friends anymore. Did you know that? You can't talk to another guy. You can't go out drinking beer with him or having dinner with your friend and having a heart-to-heart about something. Okay, you're not allowed because SJW Karens will call you gay. Okay, that's, people aren't allowed to have deep friendships that aren't sexual. So there you go. And that's such a fucked up idea that, anyway, look, that was an idea created by women who didn't understand men and couldn't understand their friendships and were pissed off at them because somehow the beer drinking buddy Kenny knew more about some things about the boyfriend than she did. And then you're like, well, maybe he doesn't like you that much. All right? Do you ever think that maybe you shouldn't have slept with him like on the second date? Just putting it out there. What do I know? A lot, by the way. When I was in college, I made Roz Doyle look like an acolyte for the little sisters of the poor, for crying out loud. So Luke having that girlfriend, I know means a lot to people, but does it serve the character? And that's what you got to think about. And no, it doesn't, because he was not on that trajectory. Well, I know you, you guys really want that. Luke didn't get the girl, so you really want him to have a girl. Why is that important? What would that validate for anything? Would it serve the character? And when you start looking at the reasons why people want something for a character, it's them saying that. It doesn't necessarily make sense. It's like this. Rey is not Kyle Ron's sister. She is not any relation at all to any of the Skywalkers, but she is a Palpatine because Daddy was a clone of Sheev. It's kind of like if Rey, or if Luke is the Grandmaster Jedi and starting his new Practium, when is he going to have time for a family? When is he, you know what I'm saying? And if you really want Mara Jade in it, don't make her an already grown woman. Make her a foundling. She could be one of his Padawans. All right, she could, be some girl that was found after the Imperial Remnant went through by, Han and Leia and Luke. And Han finds, they find out she's a Force sensitive, and that's why they were hiding her. Her parents were hiding her. It doesn't. The Skywalker bloodline continues through Leia. If you say the only way it can continue is through Luke, then you diminish Leia, okay? And she is his sister, okay? So, you guys really need to think about it. There's no reason not to have a Mara Jade, but have her be a vastly different person, because if I had to put up with her, I probably would put her through the airlock, okay? There are abrasive women, and there are the Beth Duttons of the world that are funny, and she wasn't funny. I don't like the way she treated Luke. She was very, she's mean to him. She just, it's like, I don't see it anyway. But no, I don't think he'll keep the EU, but he will use the EU. They're already doing it. All right, they're already using a lot of the EU. And now I know there are some YouTubers out there that are very upset about that. In fact, Maze and I had a long discussion about their queen. And Jonathan, he was part of creating The Mandalorian, okay? They showed him the scripts. The scripts did not get okayed until he saw them, okay? So George Lucas is like the unseen hand in all that. Yeah, so I think he'll keep it. What I think they're going to do is let Disney put the stuff out there. Okay, put whatever they produce out on Disney Plus, and whatever movies come out, that will be Disney behind that. But what is going on? All right. Yeah, John and Dave aren't going anywhere. Parabellum. God, you guys don't. You gotta listen better. Anyway, I've been up for almost an hour. This is a big night. It's not a night to open the champagne, but I think Kathy Kennedy is definitely now. She's been embarrassed today. And with this new info coming out, that the days of Kennedy era Lucasfilm are coming to a close fast. It sounds like to me that the quicker Iger can close a deal with whomever wants to buy it, the happier he'll be. Okay, so we'll have to watch. Okay, but I am going to say that Doomcock had kind of the same news from his sources, and they're not the same sources. Okay, so God knows what the black pill blobs will say. All right, I gotta go. I'm losing my voice, and I'm gonna finish this wine and go to bed. So, you guys have a good evening, and Cameron, if you're still listening, feel free to text me if anything new comes up. I'm probably gonna watch a little TV before I go to bed. See you guys around the galaxy. Behave, be safe, and we may be turning a corner soon. See you around the galaxy.